Welcome to the BlueChilli Singapore HealthTech Accelerator live Q&A session. We have on the left of your screen Sebastian Eckersley-Maslin,
G'day.
the BlueChilli CEO, Adeline Chu in the middle, who is our entrepreneur in residence.
Hi.
And on your right, Colette Girigich, who is BlueChilli's Chief Innovation Officer.
Hello.
So we're here to answer your questions about the Singapore HealthTech Accelerator for potential founders interested in the program. The program works with ambitious, aspiring and early stage founders as well as partners to build startups for health problems worth solving across Southeast Asia. There's more information, FAQs on the website, bluechilli.com/sg/healthtech. And any questions on Facebook Live, direct message, or on Twitter @BlueChilliGroup, or using the hashtag BlueChilli. So the very first question we're going to jump into here, which is, what is BlueChilli doing in Singapore?
Really good question. So we're here to build a capability to work with really early stage entrepreneurs and startup founders to help them solve society's great challenges. And the first great challenge that we're focusing on in Singapore is in health tech. So we're here to really work with anyone in the broad health ecosystem that has a great idea but doesn't necessarily have the fundamental technology underpinnings to take that idea to light. So we want to come along and help you build your first product to help you get your first customer so that you can raise your first amount of capital and hire your first employee. That's what we're here for.
Sounds amazing. So what is BlueChilli's track record and interest in the health tech space?
So we've got a number of health tech companies that we've done, and I'm going to pick on a couple because we've done 132 startups, and there's a lot of them, and we're going to take up the full time if we're going to keep going through these. So I really want to focus on a couple in particular. So one is a little startup called Elixir, which is a machine learning computer vision startup that helps predict cancerous regions in mammographic radiology screenings. And the two entrepreneurs here have done an amazing job at really developing and building a system with our assistants that can predict cancerous regions in breast screens with a higher degree of efficacy than a human operator. So this is a little startup. The startup is an idea, some great people, great founders, and they came through one of our programs and we provided the support to help them launch that first product, to take it to market. We're now working with them to establish their first customers, and very shortly we'll be helping them raise their first amount of capital as well. So that's just one. There are many, many, many others. Claire, do you want to talk about VetChat?
Yes, so we've also helped one of our founders, Dr. Claire Jenkins, build her startup VetChat, which is a platform that helps you connect to a vet immediately. It's almost like an on-demand Uber for vets for proper veterinarian assistance and advice when you need it most. So if you're stuck at home with your kids or your pets late at night and you can't go and see a vet, this helps you connect with a vet that you can ask your questions and help determine what's wrong with your pet.
So it's basically telehealth for pets.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so how do you define health tech and a tech startup?
Yeah. So for me, health tech is a broad definition. It's basically anything where digital or software can enable an idea. So we're not talking about biomed, we're not talking about pharma and drug development. That's not the scope for this program. And nor, whilst we can do devices, are we talking about invasive devices or anything really that requires FDA approval or certification. We're looking at anything that enables those industries or services. So where technology is the enabler. So particularly digital technology. It can include devices, but devices of a consumer nature rather than an actual medical nature. Adeline, I know you've got an opinion on health tech.
I was going to jump in straight away. So I guess what we would like most founders to do is to just apply, because we're very transparent in the process, and we will actually engage with the founders and sort of discuss in more detail what the idea is. But as a first pass, even though we say, well, not FDA, not TGA, we do encourage the founders to have a chat with us, because we've taken things that are in the FDA path or TGA path to the point where they can apply, so later down the track. So I think we encourage most founders to apply and have that open conversation with us and see how we can actually help make a difference to their idea and their startup.
Yeah, you lose nothing by applying. The application is obligation free. You're applying to basically a panel of reviewers, which includes us. And the best way of really starting is to start with that application process. And you can apply right now all the way through to the 16th of July, which is Tuesday week, on our website at BlueChilli.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Seb, for that plug. So what stage of business is ideal for this accelerator?
Now, I love this because I think one of the magical things that BlueChilli does that is so special about what we do is that we're able to work with entrepreneurs at any stage, but specifically around that early idea. So I often like to tell people that you don't even need a napkin. For a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with, they've literally come to us and said, look, I've never told anybody about this idea, but I've thought about it for 2 years, or I've thought about it for 2 months, and it's all I can think about. And this is the idea and how it's starting to shape. And what we do is through the application and then through the bootcamp, you get to work with our entire team. So we've got a team of 30 people at BlueChilli, and we're all startup, product, and innovation experts, and we're able to sit with you and go, okay, really, have you thought about this? Have you thought about how it would look if you spin it a little bit in this way, or if you think about this customer in a different way? So I think that's the magic of what we're able to do is, even if you think that your idea is really early and you haven't thought all the details through, that's really what we can help you with, and that's what we love doing.
Yeah, one of our startup founders, Jess from Neighborlytics, I don't think she minds me calling her on this, didn't think she was a startup founder when she applied. So it was pre-napkin stage. Yeah. So she just had a concept and is now one of our more successful startups that's come through the process, having just closed around recently. And she's just an amazing entrepreneur.
Who didn't think she was an entrepreneur.
Who didn't think she was an entrepreneur, exactly. Whereas we've got seasoned second, third time entrepreneurs who have come through who see the ability of getting the product into market so quickly with our team as sort of their leverage for their own startups and their businesses. We have one called CTARS, which is a startup that's based in the US, Singapore and Australia, in the health tech space that looks at making the collection of information around out-of-home palliative care and out-of-home disabled care much easier for organisations using an AI algorithm that we helped develop. And they saw speed to market as a key reason why they engaged us. We helped them with that, and they've now got a team of around 20 people. They're raising a Series B round. So it really, everything in the middle there, again, like the previous question, the best way to start is just to apply and then find out through the process, because you lose nothing just by asking that question.
And if I can just jump in there, so the number that Colette raised, the 30 strong team that we have, most of that team is developers, engineers, customer insights people, product managers, so mostly people who build. So you can tell where our core strength is.
Mm.
So our applicants come in with an idea and we help them build their company and their product.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're effectively helping entrepreneurs build that first product to validate the idea so they can get a customer. And through our partnerships and partners in Singapore, we help assist them in getting that early first customer. Once you've got a product in the market with a customer, it's much easier, still not easy, but it's easier to raise money, and we facilitate and assist in that process, which then helps those entrepreneurs to hire their first employees, to take their idea and grow it. And us from BlueChilli, we want to support all the founders and entrepreneurs in our Singapore program. We're investing heavily in hiring people locally to be able to drive and support this. So you're going to have technical people on the ground in Singapore working with you day in, day out to help you validate those ideas and build the product. So although some of the engineers are here in Sydney, here in other countries around the world, we do have a local team that's going to be working with you to build and validate those ideas with you. So you're going to have an incredible amount of resources right there working with you.
So during the program, BlueChilli is going to work with them over the 6 months. What about at the end of the program? How involved will BlueChilli be with the business and the founder after the program?
It's like, I like to say, it's like a family, and you can come back anytime and ask for help. So while we do formally wrap up with things like the master classes, so during the program we do a series of master classes, workshops, one-on-ones, and it's quite intensive. Once the startups graduate from the program, what we found here with all of our startups is that the majority of them come back when they need our help again, and that's to do with strategy or capital raise, or if they're looking to hire employees, or they have additional questions, or they want to develop something else in their product. A lot of the startups do come back and ask us for our advice because they had such a great experience working with us at the start, and they know what we're able to do, and they know that we will always tell them the truth. We are. I like to say that we're also shareholders in their company, and we really genuinely do care. We're a bunch of founders ourselves, so we know what that journey is like. We know that it doesn't just go for 6 months and then everything is just smooth sailing. There's challenging times after the program, and there's successful times, and we love being there for both of them. So that's something that we have as an ongoing relationship. So yeah.
And we like to think that they're so busy and successful running their business that they won't need to check in with us that often, but we're always there
we like
to provide the strategic guidance. And because the trust and relationships have already been set up, it's very easy for them to come back and discuss the sort of things that they know that we will encourage and be supportive and sort of get them to the next stage as well.
I like to call it the best kind of advice, because advice that comes from a position where the outcome of that advice affects all of us. We're shareholders in your business. We want to make sure that the value of our business is as high as possible. So when we're giving you advice, it isn't just catch up with a coffee and just 2 cents, I just spin my opinion. We're really thinking about how this is going to affect you and your ability to grow and drive value into that business, because that's what we want as shareholders in your business. So we have a vested interest in the success of every single one of our startups, which means the advice comes from a very strong and profound position.
So, we're saying that we want people to apply. They just need to have an idea. We're going to help them build the product and help them become a CEO. So you've all mentored a lot of people, a lot of startup founders. What makes a good startup founder? What kind of person do we want to apply?
That's a very good question.
Oh, we can take turns on this one. I mean, we all have an opinion.
Yeah, you get to go first.
So let's give you
No, we all like it.
I think, okay, we can all. So an open mind. So we have an open mind whenever we engage with a startup founder. We're as interested in the problem that we're all looking to solve, and so we really like to understand, the landscape, what's needed, the problem. So we go on that journey with the founders. So keeping an open mind. Passion for me personally, if I understand the drive behind fixing a particular problem, then that really resonates with me. And I also know that the founder and I will be working side by side to try and solve this, go through highs, go through lows, but we'll come through it at the end.
Seb.
Drive is incredibly important. At the end of the day, we're only here to help support you and your business idea, which means you need to be in the driving seat of that idea and of that business. We're going to give you everything we possibly can to make that as easy as possible for you, but it is still hard. It's a lot of work, and you're the ones that are ultimately going to be driving this business. So I look for people with strong drive and the ability to make things happen.
For me, I can link that back to some of BlueChilli's values. So I look at specifically in this instance 3 things. So I look for that curiosity. Are you really deeply curious about the problem, and do you care to solve it? And do you go out of your way to go and demonstrate that you are learning new things, and what do you do with that learning once you have it? The other thing is creativity, and that means when you look at that problem and you get curious about it, can you think of different ways to solve it? Can you see problems in new lights? That allows you to bring a fresh perspective. So you don't necessarily need to be an absolute expert in a space to understand a particular problem, and then really go and chase something and maybe see something in a different way than everybody else has already been looking at it. And so that's creativity. And then the third thing is courage, because those 2 things are lovely, curiosity and creativity, and you could sit in a dark room by yourself and never create anything that creates value in the world. So do you have the courage to step up? And that's, I think, related to that drive aspect. And are you, it can be a big challenge to go and start something, and are you going to take a step and do something about it? So those are the 3 things that I look for.
Thank you. Online, do post your questions on Facebook Live or Twitter at BlueChilli Group using the hashtag BlueChilli. So Colette, you just talked a lot about people solving problems, and that's different, I think, from coming in with here is an idea for an app or for a device. So can you talk about why we start with a problem and why that's enough for an application is just having identified a good problem to solve?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first off, I think that when I look at some of the reasons why I see startups failing is a lot of the time it's people who come with a solution where they go, well, I've seen something similar work and therefore this should work. And I think at the fundamental core and sort of the triangle that I always look for, my trifecta, is, you know, can you articulate who the customer is for something, and then importantly, what is their problem? And if I don't believe that those two things are real, then the solution doesn't matter. A solution floating out in the universe without actually solving a problem isn't a solution, it's just a thing, and it's not actually creating a lot of value, because we're humans and everybody has a lot of problems. You know, we create a lot of problems for ourselves too, and if you don't have a problem, you can't have a solution. So really, that to me is the underlying thing that I need to see and believe in every application, because if that's there and you have that passion and you have that curiosity, then I don't think that there is any way that you wouldn't be able to at least either validate or invalidate the idea. But without those two, you're sort of in a vacuum.
42% of all startups fail because they fail to achieve product market fit, which is a function of having the wrong market, as in you're selling something that no one wants. It's also a function of having the wrong product. And I think that a lot of times to amplify what Colette just said is that people are too attached to the solution because they're starting with the problem without starting with the product without looking at what is the actual problem they solve. So one of the values that we provide is in breaking down those assumptions and looking at, well, what is it actually we're trying to do, and what is the tangible problem we're trying to solve, and then let's reimagine our technology and solution to address that problem, and we will build the technology to help support that. So it's about really taking the whole product market fit paradigm and just twisting it around to how it's often perceived in the ecosystem, which is, let's start with a product and iterate our marketing. I think we want to start around the other way.
So, I mean, there have been a lot of startups and a lot of problems that BlueChilli has seen. Just to help people understand the kinds of problems that we want to look at, what are some examples that we've seen of problems that people have brought to solve?
Yeah, so again, we've mentioned 3 or 4 health tech startups already. So some of the problems they're solving is, with CTARs, the problem they're solving is it's very, very difficult to get a consistent approach to how different individuals provide reporting and insights on their patients. And so this is a way using artificial intelligence and a consistent iPad-based management tool to make sure that the reporting was consistent in a way that facilitated them in providing the right data at the right time. With VetChat, one of the big problems is often pet owners go to Google to look up how to, why is their cat suffering an eye infection or their dog's coughing, without realizing that there could actually be a serious problem there. But it's expensive to go to the vet, and sometimes it's difficult to go to the vet. So this provides a in-between where to give pet owners a bit more confidence in getting proper attention to their loved ones, their pets, in a way that is digital and through camera. With CTARs, with Elixir, the AI machine learning, the AI computer vision platform I mentioned before, one of the issues and challenges here is that there is just not enough radiologists to go around to keep up with the demand of radiographic imagery. And because people are working under stress, they're only looking at an image for 30 seconds, and they're basically trying to work out, does this person have cancer or not in 30 seconds? I know that if that was my image on the line, I wouldn't want someone looking at 30 seconds. I want someone looking at it for 30 minutes to work out if I've got cancer or not. So there's a huge problem here, just a lack of ready available radiologists around the world. So what their solution is, well, how much of that can you digitize? How much of that can you put as using computer vision and machine learning to enable the radiologist to concentrate and spend the 30 minutes on the ones that need the attention? So these are all real classic problems that exist where the technology came after.
And sometimes I think as we discover what the issues are, we help to craft a better problem statement. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the team, because we have brought on board people into the team with expertise in this area. So, we understand that it takes a village to raise a child, and it's much the same with a startup. So we're very conscious that we may not have all the problem statements and all the knowledge in the world, but what we're fairly good at doing is bringing in the right sorts of people. And we've been building up our relationships in the ecosystem, both in Singapore as well as in health tech and in health in general, so that we can bring the right sort of questions to the table, so we all understand what problem we're ultimately looking to solve and how we might start stage 1, moving to stage 2. So I think it's all about making a start, right?
Exactly. If you can demonstrate to us there's a need for something, if you can demonstrate, look, there's a problem here that I've experienced because I've come from this industry, or I've experienced because I was basically on the receiving end or something. That's the sort of statements we want to hear. They don't have to be any more formed than that. We can help you really articulate what it is. But it's just that there's a niggling issue when you've experienced when that thing doesn't exist there. And that could be in the efficiency of healthcare. Your experience at a hospital, what was it like? Your experience in going to a doctor, your experience in the back office side of things, if you've come from the profession to understand, what is just really inefficient, how we do scheduling. That is a problem in healthcare. So it's health tech is quite broad. It's not just medical, it's not just that space, it's everything to support it as well.
It's a complicated ecosystem, so we see lots of opportunities.
Yeah. So let's jump to one aspect of the Accelerator program, which is the funding, or the pre-seed investment which the startups receive. How does that work, and when does that happen?
Yeah. So importantly for us, our backers are looking to make investments in startups, and they're looking to make investments in startups where there's a demonstrated product market fit. We've got some sort of idea that this is going to work. So the funds are dependent on us establishing that product market fit. And the way we do that is effectively, if you can get a letter of intent through the programs that we're helping you, letter of intent or some sort of commitment or evidence that a partner, a corporate partner or an enterprise or someone is willing to use the product that we're developing, then that unlocks the funding. So the whole point of here is that we need to establish a product market fit which unlocks the funding. So that happens roughly about halfway through the actual program. So I want to make sure no one's under the illusion they're going to get it straight away on day 1 and they can run away on a holiday. That's not it at all. The money is there to be used to assist you in growing your business. And we want to put you through the hurdle of making sure we've got that first customer first. In addition though, however, is all the technical support that you receive, which is far, far greater than any monetary value. You're getting a full engineering, creative UX product team surrounded around you to build out the right products to help get those customers, to help get that validation point. And I would say that the monetary value on that is far, far greater than the investment that we've got in the program. Much, much, much greater. So we need to make sure that we're looking at the right elements of this. The value proposition of the BlueChilli program is that we have these people, these engineers, that can help build your product. And so we're looking for people who can make the most use out of that.
Awesome. So then let's talk about what happens after someone applies to join the Accelerator program. What are the steps that happen after that?
Okay, so, well, first off, if you get your application in before the 16th, then we put together a panel, a couple of panels actually, that look at the application. So we'll first do a screening to make sure that everybody is eligible. Then we will, and you can check the eligibility requirements on the website. Then we will select the top 50 out of that. We'll do a couple of phone calls just to make sure that you're still, even if you put your applications in weeks ago, that you're still actually available and able to join us for the bootcamp. And then we'll invite you to the bootcamp. And bootcamp is amazing. So if you get a chance to get into the bootcamp or you get an invite, I highly recommend you do it because it'll be extremely valuable for you regardless of the outcome. So at the bootcamp, what we do is we put together our teams, our product managers are there, and our entrepreneurs in residence, and we really work you through what we like to call a little bit of a pressure test within the accelerator. And it's a great opportunity for you to learn the fundamentals of your business, to go out and to look at really what are your main assumptions in this and how quickly you can move to test that. So within 2 weeks of the bootcamp, what we look to do is to upskill you in terms of like knowledge and terminology and all the basics and the fundamentals of running a startup. And then we get you to go out and prove to us that you actually have a market out there and this is something that we should invest in. So by the end of that bootcamp, you'd come back and pitch. We'll help you prepare you to put together a pitch deck. And in 2 weeks, from some people having just an idea in their head, you would actually be able to present to us and show us what your idea is all about. And then we select, at the end of the bootcamp, we select the investments.
So it's basically a staged approach. So application goes in, there's a panel that reviews it. We're going to make some phone calls to some of the individuals in that week as well, just to clarify certain points. And then we make invitations to bootcamp. Bootcamp is obligation free. That's important to note as well. There is
compulsory.
It's compulsory to attend, but there's no contract relationship yet. There's no equity. There's nothing else. All the IP stays with you throughout bootcamp. So effectively, bootcamp can be used as an opportunity for you to validate the idea for yourself as well. Because we want to get to a point where at the end of bootcamp, you're ready, we're ready. This is the best idea. We're going forward. And to really to jump on what Colette said by putting you under the pressure is, we want to see you validate the idea. So we're going to expect you to go out and talk to 40, 50, 60 people out there. The more people you can engage with during bootcamp, the more likely you are to develop a strong hypothesis around the business problem you're trying to solve. But don't worry, because we give you all the tools. We train you how to do this. We also give you all the training on how to present to a panel of judges. And those judges at the last final 2 days are going to be looking past the actual pitch. They're going to be looking at you, your strengths, as well as the problem and how you validated that problem, because that's ultimately what we want to invest in.
And we've run, just to add to that, we've run hundreds of entrepreneurs through these boot camps. So it's a process that we've, developed over years now. And it's really, I actually think boot camp's one of my favorite. It's absolutely fun.
Yeah, the buzz is amazing. Can I say 100? I know you said 30, 40, 50 interviews. So my average in the last boot camp was, about 100. I had some doing over 100. So I have to say this, I'm doing the coaching afterwards. Well, I'm doing the coaching. So, as the EIR, some of the people that really got engaged in it, they got so much out of it because they put a lot into it. And I think that's the important thing to know about bootcamp as well. You will learn a lot, you will grow a lot, and the more you throw yourself into it, the more you get out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what I've heard is, even if you don't think you're an entrepreneur, put an application in, come to the bootcamp and find out for yourself. You'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And just go to the website, BlueChilli.com. Applications close on the 16th of July. Follow the links on the top there, the banner. It's dead simple to do. It only takes 5-10 minutes to put the information in. Register your interest, fill out the application, because we want to see as many people as possible at that bootcamp.
Yeah. So we have a question from Alex on Facebook Live. Does BlueChilli accept startups that have received funding already beforehand?
Yes. Hi, Alex. So this is an investment question, which falls on me. Yes, we do. The terms of the investment is the equity that BlueChilli receives in exchange for providing the whole product team doesn't change. That stays at 10%. However, the equity that the investment goes in, as long as you've raised at least $100,000, that is done on a matched basis. You have to apply, but that's the intention. So we're going to make sure that we keep the financial valuation the same, but the value metric for what we provide remains fixed.
Cool. So let's stick with talking about funding and investment. How does BlueChilli help startups with raising investment after the program or after the funding that comes with the program?
Yeah, so again, I go back to an earlier comment I made, which is we have a vested interest in your success. We're shareholders, so we're going to do everything we possibly can to help you succeed, and that includes helping you with how you structure a capital round, which country do you do the capital round in, how you actually receive investment, putting you in front of investors and VCs at the right appropriate time. We've got a network of 300 to 400 high net worths across Southeast Asia that we introduce you to once you've met certain hurdles and criteria, which we explain through the whole program. Again, we're here to help you on this process. Our startups have raised a total of $160 million. That's Singapore, Australian dollars, it's almost the same. $160 million, and there's a 60% chance or likelihood that the startups that go through our program actually close their first seed round. So the odds are stacked in your favor, but it's not easy. There's a lot of work that you've got to do. We just open the door and make the door as wide as possible to keep that analogy going.
So we've talked about Australia, we've talked about Singapore, but you just mentioned then Southeast Asia. So where are we expecting people to apply from? Where are people able to apply from?
You can apply anywhere from either Australia or from Southeast Asia. You have to incorporate in Singapore, and you have to be in Singapore for the program. So there's a number of program elements that are absolutely mandatory and compulsory, including immersions and the workshops, and all of those dates and details are outlined on the website. But yeah, if you're based in Jakarta, or you're based in Bangkok, or anywhere over the region, and you're interested in applying, you're absolutely eligible to. And just to add to that, there's a couple, I think, when you asked earlier about what sort of ideas are we looking for, some of the trends that we see are not just unique to Singapore. It's all across the region. We've got an aging population, we've got a rise in non-communicable diseases, and we've got a consumer drive that's pushing to change the narrative from being a hospital or a system-led approach to being an individual and personalized approach. So how do you as an individual experience the healthcare that you need at the time that you need it, and the way that you need to access that. So none of those things are unique across the region. So I would say that one of the things that you're able to do, and what makes this so interesting, is even though there are these broad trends, is there are specific instances in each country that makes it unique. So we might even see similar ideas from different countries coming into the program and having completely different solutions, because it's what that area needs. So I think if you're in the region, it's definitely something to be looking at.
Yeah, you get a lot of value with the FaceTime and connectivity as well. So whilst we make it compulsory, it's for a very, very good reason. It's because there's a lot stronger knowledge transfer when you're actually in the same room. So we've got an amazing program director with Hui Hong, who's based in Singapore, who's going to be driving this. And she's going to be surrounded by product managers and EIRs that are in the area, in the same office, in the same building as you, which means your contact time and the value you get from the program is going to be much, much, much higher. We can help with visas through our Entrepass relationship we have with the Singapore government. You have to apply, but the BlueChilli Singapore HealthTech Accelerator is one of the eligible accelerators for Entrepass. So as long as you meet the requirements of Entrepass, then this is an eligibility criteria that you can use should you get through and into the program.
Almost forgot that.
So you talked about the program. So looking at the program dates, it's about 2 days per month that the startups will be in Singapore for those workshops and for the events. And we've taken into account things like Christmas, Lunar New Year, and Ramadan in scheduling those days. School holidays, lots of things like that.
And Singapore's ecosystem, there's so much happening there. So if you were to only be there for the 2 days of the program, I think that would be...
You're just shame. You're missing out all the other amazing things that happen in Singapore at the time. So I think that there's definitely a balance. There's definitely a balance there that if you're not based there, it's completely feasible. We do design all our programs with inclusion in mind. So we look at how do we make it possible for everybody to participate, or for the broadest group of people to participate. And so we know how to design programs that make it possible for people who have carer responsibilities. So whether you're looking after aging parents or you're looking after young children, we really make sure that we understand those circumstances so that we are able to make this accessible to you. So if you think, oh, I can't do it because I'm looking after a baby, well, guess what? We've had entrepreneurs do that. We've had, people come in with literally bringing their newborns along to the program and to Bootcamp, and we're able to facilitate that. And it's something that we really take a lot of pride in, because entrepreneurship, and especially startups, is not just for people with a lot of means who come with a tech background. We really firmly believe that this is a world that's accessible to people who have great ideas, who back themselves, who understand a problem and really chase after finding the best solution for their customers so that they can create value and create an impact in the world. So there is no reason. The only excuse as to why you can't do it is the ones that you're going to make up. So there you go.
So who's being tough now?
So this is the live Q&A about the BlueChilli Singapore HealthTech Accelerator program. And so, we're accepting your questions live on Facebook and on Twitter. I had a question which has totally just slipped my mind. So I'm gonna ask you about program partners. So who is BlueChilli working with in running this accelerator?
Right. So firstly, we have to thank our partner with Enterprise Singapore, who is one of our main partners who is supporting us in bringing this to the region. And I believe that that's something that speaks quite highly of who we are as an organization and what we're able to contribute to the ecosystem, because like I mentioned, there is a lot happening in the ecosystem already. But what we have is that unique aspect to also make it accessible to non-technical founders. So firstly, thank you very much for our partner ESG. We're also working very closely with a number of partners, including Gale and Growth Asia, who looks at health tech investments and trends across the region to help us understand what are investors looking for on the other side, where are some of the opportunities that they've seen over time and the growth that they've seen over time, for helping us determine what investors are looking for, but also how the market is changing and where the need is coming from and what's driving some of those needs. We're working closely with CSIRO, which is CSIRO. It's a research organization, getting access to a lot of their digital health and e-health experts who are serving as advisors in the program to help support. And once we know who the startups are in the program, then we'll be able to select and go to them and say, these are the startups. Can you dip into either your research, your postdocs, your PhDs, and help bring that support in directly to work one-on-one with the founders throughout the program.
There's 1,000 researchers and subject matter experts in CSIRO, which is Australia's version of A-Star, effectively. And they're going to be made available to the founders going through. So if you have a particular specialist requirement for advice or guidance or direction, then we have access to some of the best researchers in the world, and they're going to be provided to you as part of the program as well.
Yeah. There's also a number of ecosystem partners that we're working with, including spaces that we'll be working from, partners that will be running events with during the program, but also if you take a look at the advisors, that should give you a good idea of the types of organizations and the people that we have access to throughout the program.
So when you're creating a startup product, you're not just selling to consumers, you're not just putting an app on the App Store, you're working with businesses, with organizations, right?
Yeah, so one of the things we look for is what is a proxy to a market. Going back to that statistic I said before, 42% of all startups fail because they fail to achieve product market fit, is because A, they build the wrong products. Well, we can help that because we've got a product team, but B, they fail to achieve product market fit. So how can we help with the market? Well, I look at the market as an abstraction. It's not a thing. It's not something you can go and reach. I can't say, hey, let's have 4 markets and sell to those 4 markets in the room and have the market in the decision room with us. So we look for a proxy to a market, and organizations and our partner organizations are our proxies to these markets. So through the bootcamp, through the process, if you can work with our partners, our advisors, and the organizations that we bring into that bootcamp, and you can work with them to identify that need and to solidify that need, then we look to that as like, you may have product market fit, and then we'll build the right product to support that. So our partner organizations are so important for that because they provide that means for us to shortcut a lot of the reasons why startups fail.
Yeah. And that's from a clinical perspective too. So NUH and Alexandra Hospital, so we're working with their research office to similarly tap into their researchers and their clinicians. So whether it is around validating the ideas that you have or looking for early pilots, these are things that we can, once we know who's in the program, we can help facilitate that a little bit better.
Yeah, so if you've got an idea, for example, that is making communications within a medical department more efficient and more secure, then we can provide access to people that can validate those needs and potentially act as a test pilot. If you're looking at an idea that can make a particular area of hospital care more efficient because there's a better way of collecting data or displaying data, recording data, then we can provide access to the right people that can help validate those ideas. So when I say that we help you build the first product to help you get your first product in the market, this is how, is by providing the access and the insights to these people like NUHS, like Alexandria Hospital.
So what happens if someone already has a product?
Brilliant. So we can work with existing startups with products in the market, but we're still going to go through the same process of validating out the problem we're solving Just because there's a product there, it may not necessarily be the exact right product. And before we spend more engineering time in developing that idea further, we want to go back to fundamentals to go, you know what is the actual core problem? The advantage you have in coming to this program with a product in the market is that you've already got a deeper understanding of some of the challenges, some of the customers, and some of the problems you're trying to do, which means that it's more likely that you're going to be able to shortcut a lot of those learnings and get to market quicker, even with our incredibly quick team. But we want you to be prepared, because sometimes the right decision is to start again. Sometimes the right decision is to completely pivot away. Sometimes the decision is to double down on one feature set and sort of carve out some of the others. And we'll work with you during Bootcamp and post-Bootcamp to work out which one of those options is the right one for you and for our team to be able to help you.
And this is where the open mind is really important. So it's not uncommon at Bootcamp for some of the founders that I help to coach and mentor to say they spent $35,000 of their own savings, they've created something, they've loaded it onto the App Store, and then nobody's downloaded it for 6 months. So the experience is valuable, the insights are valuable, and we don't discard that. But we bring them back to first principles. What problem are they trying to solve? Who are they trying to solve it for? And then we guide them on how to dig for insights so that there's something that can be productized, built, and then shipped, so that it makes a difference out there. So it's not uncommon, but open mind.
And so other than the product build, which we've talked about, and the pre-seed funding, which is available to the selected startups, what's the other contribution that BlueChilli makes to a startup? What's the other value of going through an accelerator?
One of the big ones is we've made a lot of mistakes, and you get to learn from all those mistakes. It's much, much smarter to learn from someone else's. We've built over 130 startups and companies. We've invested in every single one of them. We built the technology for every single one of them. We've supported the product development of every single one of those. So there's a lot of learnings and a lot of knowledge, corporate knowledge, that's in the minds and the heads of the advisors that we're going to surround you, and you get access to all of that. And those people, again, have a vested interest in your success. So when they're going to give you advice and guidance on where to go next, it's coming from a very strong foundation of, you know what, we tried this over here, it didn't work, and here's 5 reasons why. Now, at the end of the day, you're still the CEO, you're still in the driving seat. We're only giving you advice. We're not directing you to do things. If you can take our advice and go down a different path if that's what you believe in, and we will back you on that as long as you listen. And that's the open-mindedness that Adeline was talking about before.
Yeah.
So there's amazing corporate knowledge of how to launch products quickly that you get. You get just by being part of the BlueChilli. Secondly, you get access to the alumni, the existing network of the 100-odd founders that have come through and forged this path before you. You have access to them, you have access to our advisors, you have access to our entrepreneurs in residence, our mentors, our corporate clients, not just in Singapore, but around the world. If you've got an idea that's going to solve something that's really, solve something in a hospital in Singapore, well then we want to make sure we give you access to hospitals in India, in Jakarta, in Sydney, in New Zealand, to make you the most successful as possible.
So I think of that as a quality question as well. So we've learned over many years, and I think also for our team, we have had successive, team members just come in and bring their kind of special star quality. And we're very open to the fact that we're not a huge team, but we keep bringing people in that add to the BlueChilli culture, the values. They bring their sets of learnings, and we're all very open to learning from each other. So this is a team that grows and learns. And I think, to our network as well, they grow and learn with us. And that's, I guess, part of what you would access through being part of this program.
So you talked about the quality of the advice that you get. And Adeline, you're one of the entrepreneurs in residence. Could you just give a quick biography of what you have done?
It's probably more interesting to talk about what I've learned from it. So to Seb's point, we've made all the mistakes, and we'd like to help you avoid those mistakes. You often, and anyone who's been through a program will attest to this, you get advisor whiplash. So one of the things that we're actually quite good at recognizing is when someone's actually inundated with too much information, and there's pushing, but there's also pulling back and getting people to reflect and think and also decide what's the relevant information to follow. So I guess it's the team, and we're actually all ex-entrepreneurs, startup founders, and some currently as well. So we always have our own little side hustle. So we're very current in the system, just like you. So we're experiencing all the same things, and that's why the advice is it's relevant, it's current, and it's meant in the right spirit, which is let's all learn together and let's not make the same rookie mistakes.
So what I've heard is that if you just have an idea, you've just identified a problem, we want you to apply, we want to hear from you. If you already have a product or prototype in market, we can work with you. And even if you have a product and it's got a little bit of revenue, you're going well, you can still learn from the experience that BlueChilli has been through, that our alumni have been through, that our advisors have been through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so to be clear though, we're not trying to be all things to all people. We know what our strength is, and that's in the fact that we build product, we build good products, and we build them where there's a market in mind. So we can either value add to people who've already been tinkering with something, or for those people who have been suffering through a particular experience, either as a carer or as a patient, and they've just kind of figured out that there's a way of getting through this that is just easier, faster, better, cheaper, then we want to talk to you as well. But our core competency is we build product.
So applications are open on BlueChilli.com until the 16th of July. One question that seems to come up a lot is, do I need to do the accelerator full time?
By the time you get to the end of the program and you're trying to raise money, you need to be full-time. The more time that you can invest into this business throughout the process, the faster you will achieve the outcomes. If you're only part-time on a startup, you're only going to get a part-time output from your work in that startup. It's only natural. And you're going to be behind your peers who are going to be putting in 5, 6, 7 days a week into their business. So the short answer is no, you don't need to be full-time, but you will achieve far greater things and far quicker things if you are. And by the time you get to the point where you're raising capital, then yes, you must be, because investors are very reluctant to invest in part-time founders.
What's worked successfully sometimes is when a founder has a consultancy or a part-time role which is in an adjacent field. So what happens is they're continuing to develop insights and knowledge and a network, so it's validation. But as to Seb's point, usually the ones who raise faster are the ones that have demonstrated that they've got the product, the market, and the ability to drive this forward.
So thinking about the applications, what is your advice for people to apply?
Read the questions.
Read the questions.
I'll take this one. So I think first and foremost, take the time to really see and understand, the types of companies that we are investing in and the types of founders and entrepreneurs that we're investing in, and make sure that there's alignment there, because that really is important. And I think, as we just talked about, it's fairly broad, so I wouldn't disqualify yourselves at that round. And then when you're putting your application together, just actually read the question. I think a lot of time people assume that what we're trying to ask is something different or some other thing, and it's not. It is literally the question that we're asking is the one that we would like you to answer. And you don't need to go into an elaborate amount of detail. I would say it's helpful, if you're open to it, to have, give your application to a friend to read if you like, and go, does this make sense? Assume that not everybody in the room is an expert around the particular field that you're in. We might have some experts on the panel, but not everybody is an expert, and you should be able to articulate your idea in a way that centers and brings it back to who is the customer and what is the problem, and how does your solution solve that problem for them. And if you can nail that, then a lot of the other stuff is nice to have around it. But fundamentally, I would say if you're going to focus anywhere, focus on those 3 things.
And we're not looking for a thesis. So when I evaluate the applications, what I'm looking for is an understanding of what is unique and special that you can bring to this problem. So I'm not looking for cut and paste from academic journals. I'm not looking for 10 references that cite the problem. I'm interested in your viewpoint, what you see and the difference that you think you can make. So, if the problem is really meaningful to a lot of people, if there's a gap that you see in terms of how everyone's approaching it, but you're looking at it with slightly different perspective, that's what I'm really interested in. So, to the point, answer the question, we're not looking to test you don't get graded. It's just a way for us to also evaluate, can we help this person? So come with your honesty and your transparency, and then
and
we will give you
same.
and we'll give you great feedback as well.
And don't think for a second that you have to have 10, 20 years of experience to be a third-time founder. Some of the best entrepreneurs that have come through our program didn't think they were entrepreneurs when they applied. And they were almost not going to apply. Well, I'm really, really glad they did, because they're amazing people. So do not think that there's any assumed knowledge or background or anything that you have to have, because we can teach you and we can work with you as long as you're curious, you have the courage to move forward, that you've got an open mind and you've got drive.
And you don't have to have a PhD in whichever medical discipline. Some of the best founders I've worked with, they're either parents of a child who has that problem, so they've got a deep commitment to finding a solution, or there's someone who are they've gone through a period of illness, and they're determined that no one else has to experience it the way that they've experienced it. So back to passion.
That's right.
So this might be a good time to recap on that distinction between health tech and medical and biotech. And we have a question from online around, is there an example of a medical device startup that is currently that we're aware of? And does the accelerator have resources to push for regulatory approval? So I think this.
So the first thing I said is that we're looking at digitally enabled businesses, which can include products, as long as it's non-invasive. Generally speaking, it's very unlikely that the startup is going to get regulatory approval during the course of the accelerator. So it takes a long time. We don't have the specialist skills on staff to assist that, but we know where to ask. So as long as you're not expecting to get the approvals by the end of the accelerator program, then moving with that open mind actually makes sense. In terms of some of the medical devices, I would hesitate to call them medical devices. They're more on the consumer levels. So we have a baby monitoring device that we're currently working on right now. We have a device that uses beacons to assist people with vision impairment in navigating indoor spaces. So sort of like that Google turn-for-turn instructions to people who can't see, to help them in wayfinding in shopping centres and public spaces. We've got another hardware device which assists kids with learning difficulties, particularly around speech, to be able to become more confident in speaking through gameplay. So that's the sort of, on the devices aspect, that's the sort of devices I'm talking about. Looking at taking information and presenting it to a user to facilitate or assist them in making their own minds up or giving them added value. What we're not talking about is anything that's invasive, anything that deals with that deep med tech medical devices. There are other groups in Singapore that do that amazing, and we're happy to talk to them about that as well. So if you do apply and we find it's not for us, we will refer you on, if you want, with your permission, to some of the other ones in Singapore that can help.
So we've covered a lot in 55 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for your closing thoughts.
I think, if you're sitting there and you're wondering, can I do it? Should I do it? You will never know unless you try. And I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not necessarily something that people chose as a career. For myself, certainly that's true, so I'm biased in my opinion about this, but I didn't choose to be an entrepreneur. I didn't plan for this. It just happened from chasing a problem and going, I think I should be the person to solve this, because I can see something that I don't think other people are understanding, and they should see it my way. So if you're thinking and you're wondering, then I would say give it a crack, because there isn't any other way that you would find out cheaper, faster, with more experience and support wrapped around you, if this is something that you can do or not.
So in my head, 60% of the world's population is in Asia Pacific. you've got so many countries at your doorstep crying out for solutions to medical problems, large and small, health problems, large and small. I think there's a great opportunity to embark on this journey with us. Our skill sets are in product. We appeal to founders that have domain expertise, the CEOs, not so much the CTOs. And I think for us and for you, if it's not already mentioned or apparent, Australia is a great place also to do test marketing, and we bring expertise and ideas in that space as well. So see it as a great combination of East-West. And I think that's a good foundation for a global mindset, and we really are interested in problems that will solve, global life-changing experiences. So thinking global, but start local first.
I want to work with people who have a drive to be able to solve big societal challenges with tech, and to help them on that journey by helping them build that tech so they can sort of get their first customer and help them raise money so they can become a successful startup in their own right. So I'm looking for people with that drive that have an idea, an inkling, or a product in the market, validate whatever it is. As long as you've got that drive and that passion and energy, then apply. You lose nothing by applying, you lose nothing by going to Bootcamp, but I guarantee that you'll miss out if you don't apply.
Fantastic. So we have one more event in Singapore before the applications close. That is on the 11th of July in the evening. It's on the Collaboration for New Value Creation, the Future of Health. So that's going to feature some of our program advisors and partners. You can see details on the Facebook event page. A reminder that seats are limited and filling up fast, so do sign up if you're going to be in Singapore on the 11th of July. It's at AWS Singapore's Amazon Web Services.
And our team are going to be there, our local team are there, answer any more questions you have. If you've got any questions after this, just reach out on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, however you want, ask us questions. We're totally open and we'll give you answers. This will be made available as well, this whole recording, if you want to watch it after the fact, which is kind of funny for me to say because if you've listened to this last, you've already heard it, but yes. We are there to answer your questions, but again, you lose nothing by applying, so just go for it.
Awesome. So applications are open now, BlueChilli.com, closing at 11 p.m. Singapore time on Tuesday the 16th of July. We are waiting and eager to see your application and read it and hopefully see you in the bootcamp.
Good luck.
Thank you, Seb. Thank you, Adeline. Thank you, Colette.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bye-bye.